Hello, denizens of the internet. I know, you hate the word woke, but for the life of me, I can't find a better word to describe people who have weaponized that original concept. And yeah, now it's an expression of derision. I'm sorry. And so, in my simple-minded way, let me explain the title of this video, Woke Hate Joy. Look, you know what? I think it's become clear that social justice adherents can't create any IPs. I've also risked life and limb by proclaiming that most of our cherished pop culture properties were predominantly created by straight white men, and worst of all, many were penned by Jews. We're not very popular amongst the terrorists supporting rainbow Nazis out there these days. Interestingly, those are the four categories which are persona non grata in DEI circles, and of late the search for the mythical modern audience has resulted in a string of massive failures, the likes of which Hollywood has never seen. It jeopardizes theaters, livelihoods, and even support services. Perhaps there is a lesson there that I'm missing? Wait, what about that blockbuster, Deadpool and Wolverine? It stars Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, written by Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, Zeb Wells, Sean Levy, and directed by Sean Levy. It did not include a single female documentarian whose most recent project was a Pakistani animated short film about child marriage, who is allegedly directing the new Star Wars Rey movie, which sounds like a stunning and brave match. Stunning and brave when an agenda is your first priority. Too bad Star Wars killed off the space lesbian witches in The Acolyte. I'm sure they would have been a fine addition. Anyway, I'm being bitchy. Sorry. What brought all this to mind was a video my online pal Jill Powers sent me. In this YouTube video, BatCarGuy showed off his reproduction of the 1966 Adam West Batmobile. His description is as follows. I built a custom replica of a 1966 Batmobile. When I go to car shows, people ask if the buttons and switches all work. They do. I made this video to demonstrate most of the features of the car, including the simulated turbine startup sound. So, this brought to mind a couple of things. One is a little surprise, which I'll leave to the end. Many of us on the pop culture beat lament the wholesale destruction of venerable franchises. Actually, I would go even further and say deliberate and wanton torture of those franchises by the present-day gatekeepers who revel in their destruction. What the Batmobile video clearly shows is that the simple things created out of joy will last. Deconstructing icons of the past and twisting them to perform circus tricks to fulfill a demented and bitter mental illness out of hate and greed, I would suggest is not the best way to create a legacy. Now, not everyone will have seen the original Batman series, where we first saw the Batmobile made by legendary car modder George Barris. Many saw it in reruns, but it's so iconic that many more of you know it without knowing how you know it. You just know it. You won't get that from tearing down the past out of hate, but by creating something new out of joy. When I saw this amazing video, I actually got teary-eyed. Someone went to the trouble of making a Batmobile more capable than the original one more than a half a century later because it meant something to them. People recognize it at car shows. How many more decades will its legacy live on? Who knows? I was 12 when the show first aired. The only person with a color TV in the entire apartment building was my friend Kim Rowe, whose dad was the landlord. I have a vague recollection of being extremely pushy about inviting myself to watch the show at Kim's apartment every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. on ABC. I think I felt some remorse, but not while I was watching Batman in color, which I'm telling you now was more glorious for that 12-year-old mind than anything I would see later in IMAX. So now you see why the BatCarGuy's video was so emotional for me, but it reminded me of the lasting legacy of such positive experiences of the 60s, such as Mission Impossible, Beverly Hillbillies, Bonanza, Get Smart, Dragnet, The Green Hornet, and that show called Star Trek, which most of you have never heard of. That isn't to say that The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, Game of Thrones aren't better shows, but they are bleak and not particularly joyful, though they were made with great joy. Then we got shows like She-Hulk and Velma, which were literally you shows. It's easy to recognize the constructed from the deconstructed. Of course, things that became iconic were never designed that way. Popular properties are purely a numbers game. You have to publish enough books, comics, video games, make enough movies and TV shows for no other reason than to give the right person at the right time the opportunity to fall into the accident that becomes legendary. All major book publishers turned down Harry Potter. I'm not going to list the thousands of happy accidents, especially in the comedy field. You have your own favorites, but there is one thing that holds them all together. Nothing lasting is made from malice. Yet malice is the only motivation many have these days. I promised you a small surprise, and here it is. Me in my Adam West Batman costume my grandmother made me when I was in grade 6. Talk about joy. Till next time, denizens, be seeing you.